At this time, may I invite Mr. Hitesh Keswani to address us very briefly on the career options which we talk about, the career options that we promote, because we do promote it. Always keeping in mind that the best career is the career which is best for your child. Mr. Keswani.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Imagine a future where genome editing will be the big thing, where you inherited a legacy of certain genetic diseases from your parents, but your children, when they become parents, they will have the option, just like they apply filters on images, they edit their videos like YouTubers, they will be editing genes so that the offsprings do not inherit the lifestyle diseases, the genetic diseases that are transferred as a legacy. You might be thinking this is too far-fetched, but no, hang on. You have been living under a rock if you have still not heard of something called the Chat GPT. Yes, the infamous AI bot that has been writing essays for college students without any charge for plagiarism. It has been solving complex mathematical equations, the differential, the integral, calculus, the much dreaded topics by just keying in the problem. And if you have just heard of Siri or Google Assistant, hang on till I spell out the following list to you. Voice pen, crisp, Beethoven, clear voice, podcast, sound root, otter, flare, illustro, gloca, copy monkey, okaya, ink for all, city tie, synthetic AI, and the list is endless. These bots in future will be replacing a lot of careers that exist today. Children that are entering nursery today will be entering into 70% of the professions that do not even exist as of today. And here we are talking about careers. 70% of new careers will be born. I will now be referring to a certain brochure that has been handed over to you while you made your way into the college and were being seated here, so we can follow this together. And I'll be sharing with you some of the NEP, new education policies, points that were introduced by Government of India. And let me let you in on a secret. Much before the new education policy was implemented, Martiniere was ahead of its time. Martiniere had already incorporated many of the points into its educational system, which were later reiterated by the NEP. So the point number one that the NEP said that has already been incorporated into Martiniere's education system is a multidisciplinary subject choice. Earlier there used to be sacrosanct streams, arts, commerce, humanities. I just spoke to you about a career called genome editing. And boys, feel free to answer this question from there. And don't worry, you're sitting at a distance, I'll still hear it. I'll say the word microphone that I'm using here right now. Can you think about 5 careers that can come out of a microphone? Anybody can just say, even parents, staff members, anybody can participate. Podcaster, of course.
Stand-up comedy.
Stand-up comedian? Yes. Anybody else? Radio jockey, I heard from a parent.
Astronomer.
You could be a singer.
News reporter.
You could be an engineer. Voiceover artist. And the list is endless. Do you see that? And when you say, my son has to opt for science, my son has to opt for mathematics, even though the son might not have a flair for it, Even though the son might get nightmares thinking of the subject, whereas the child might just be brilliant in a subject like history. He might be brilliant in English. Come to my guidance cell and I'll tell you a career, not one, not two, not three, but at least a dozen that can be born out of any and everything, from a flower pot to a carpet to a chair. There are brilliant careers around everything. So multidisciplinary subject choice. Today, earlier there used to be the thought that you choose a particular career, you stick to it all your life and you retire with it. That was brilliant for the generation that just went by. But how about careers in which you get into and do the same thing over and over for the next 30 years, 40 years? They are good, they are stable, they are nice. But what will you do when in 2030, 90% of a feature film, 90% of a blockbuster film will be written, scripted, the dialogues, the songs, the cinematography, everything will be done by an AI bot. The careers which are repetitive in nature, that require you to do a certain thing over and over again, are clerical in nature, will be very fast replaced, they won't exist. A multidisciplinary subject choice opens the mind of a child to create cross links, moving out of the silos, giving wings to their thinking. I can tell you of careers that are born out of mathematics and history as a combination. Some things you never thought. Second thing, the new education policy thought of and which was already implemented at Martiniere was changes in forms of assessments. Earlier, the assessments used to test the parroting skills, the rote memorization, which has now moved on to testing critical thinking. If I tell you a particular thought, do you have the ability to look at it from 10 different angles? Or do you just jump to conclusions just because you have heard it somewhere, you've said it? Do you apply your own mind to look at the same thing from 10, 15, 30, 40 different angles? That's critical thinking. Getting conceptual clarity, because the future is not about rote learning, it is about application. And ChatGPT shocked the Harvard Law School professors because it passed the law exam, it fought a case, the judgment that came from the bench was ultimately the same which the AI bot had predicted. And we are still stuck into rote memorization. Not us, I mean, as a system in the country or the world, that had not gonna work. Third thing, eliminating the pressure of school leaving examinations, which the NEP has very clearly stated. Earlier, the board marks used to be the big thing. I had a neighbor whose result was just declared and he was very sad and depressed. You know why? Because he got a 97.25%. 97.25%. And 2 years ago or 3 years ago, he could not make it to a St. Stephen's or a Sri Ram College of Commerce or a North Campus of Delhi University College. What are we even talking of? That's a thing of yesteryears. The new education policy has brought in a new test which does away with this draconian cutoff systems, this horrible system of pumping marks, and it has been replaced by something called a CUET, Combined Universities Entrance Tests, which in my sessions I do explain what is the format, what are the FAQs regarding it, and we'll discuss all of that when your children reach that stage. However, now the board examination marks do not hold the gravitas as they used to. So the pressure has been lifted off your children's shoulder about proving that high marks are equal to high future success. In economics and statistics, we teach a topic called correlation. You know what correlation means? Correlation, for example, in this case, high marks on one side and future success on the other. If a child is getting a high mark, is it necessary that in future they'll be successful? researchers have shown over and over that there is no direct correlation between high marks and a future success of a child. It may be, it may not be, but they are not directly correlated. That's for sure. Fourth thing, the NTA has brought, the National Testing Agency has brought entrance exam, CUET, which I have already covered. The NEP focuses on development of soft skills. Ladies and gentlemen, Martiniere was always about all-round development of your child. No better place in the country. I've had the honor to go to some of the most well-known universities and schools across the country, and I'm not saying this because I'm a Martinian, but indeed it has been my real experience. There is no education system like Martiniere. So be it soft skills, be it all-round development, or you make a mistake and you get an opportunity to learn. Martiniere gives you the freedom to be who you are, to find your feet. What is your forte? And then grow in it. This is not a system where only a 99.99%er is applauded for. This is a system where even a child who comes from a diverse financial background, who comes from not academically very high scores, is applauded for his achievements. The new education policy has made also another very striking difference in the earlier system by introducing multiple entry and exit points in education. What do I mean? Think about a child who is not able to complete his education for n number of reasons. We just had the pandemic. We saw how life became. How about a child who lost both the parents and financially was not able to complete his education? How about somebody who could go only till the second year? So what new education policy says is we introduce a system in a university where a child gets into second year, third year, could not complete the fourth year of, let's say, engineering or a liberal art program. Still, they will be awarded a particular diploma that will help them gain a meaningful employment. For this, an academic bank of credit has been created. You cleared certain papers in your university and you got the credits for it, and therefore you can still, on basis of those credits, be meaningfully employed in the area you're skilled at, or you are likely to show potential for being skilled at, or leadership, or whatever it may be. Now, ladies and gentlemen, in the remaining 1 minute or so that I'm going to speak more with you, I'd like to draw your attention to the brochure where facts versus fallacies in the career choices are stated. That's the page 2, the bottom column. The number one fallacy that parents or sometimes children carry in their minds while making subject choices is, number one, there is not much scope for students who opt for humanities. Therefore, regardless of a child's aptitude, we make him opt for science, for maths. They are not bad, they are brilliant. Science is brilliant, commerce is brilliant, and so is humanities. Every subject is as good as the other. We have to focus on for three things. What are your child's aptitude, passion, and interests? On the basis of these three, we help him identify what will be the ideal subject choice for him. So don't force him to take A, B, C subject just because the trend is going that way. Number two fallacy. Taking up physics, chemistry, mathematics and biology opens up wider career options. Well, Martiniere has done away with the silos of streaming. A child can choose any subjects later in grade 11 and 12. So many a times it has been seen that children come for discussion and they say, why don't I opt for physics, chemistry, biology and mathematics? They'll help me have a broader career. I can go for engineering and I can go for medical. Not everybody who takes PCM goes to do engineering. I know somebody, Shankar Mahadevan, who is a popular musician of the country and he's done so well for himself in Bollywood. Shankar Mahadevan is one example, R. Madhavan is one example, and I can go on and on and on. So please don't force them to take certain subjects just because. Another fallacy could be there is much more scope for careers in fields of engineering and medicine and management than mass media, design or any other. I will reiterate, each career is as good as the other. What is the person's forte? I know some brilliant folks who are earning much more than some doctors. I know a radio jockey, a public speaker who earns per podcast. He records the podcast in 1 hour and earns much more than somebody who's working an entire month or maybe even 6 months. I'd like to call this world, and I'm using this acronym from the World Economic Forum, which is the popular place where all the business and economics policies in the world are doled out. So they used for today's world an acronym and they called it the VUCA world, where V stands for volatility. Look around, stock market just collapsed. We had a Black Friday last Friday, and how many crores of rupees were burnt on basis of a certain short seller's report. Is this world not volatile? The second word in the acronym was U, VUCA, U, and it stands there for uncertain. Look what is certain about this world. We are seeing 40 years old collapse. We are seeing so many changes happening across the world, so much of financial, economic, emotional uncertainty around. The third acronym that they used, World Economic Forum, was complex. That minds of people are no longer so simple as they used to be. There is so much of complexity, which then translates to complexity in the financial markets and the world markets all around. And the last acronym that they used was ambiguous. Not everything is so clear about the world where a child would navigate their way so easily all across. Now, I just proved to you that there is a career around everything. And this is the era of having interdisciplinary choices, where a doctor is a doctor in the morning and sometimes a musician in the evening. And there are so many examples. Please let your children be who they want to be. Let them blossom in their originality. Ladies and gentlemen, this was my message. In case you would like to set up an appointment at the guidance cell, please know whatever we do, it's an offering from La Martiniere, free of cost. You can set up an appointment at the rear of the brochure. The contact number is stated. You could simply drop a WhatsApp message and set up an appointment. Because I'm also a teacher in the college, I might not be available all the time at the guidance cell. If you just drop a message, I'll set up a time for you and let me, through a direction, show you. Many of the boys might not know the guidance cell because they are in grade 8. Many will know. So I'm just showing. At my left and your right is on the top the second dormitory. Just below that is what I perceive as one of the most important places in the college. It's called the career guidance cell. It's hung. It's not important because I sit there or anybody else sits there. But that's where the ethos of La Martiniere is transferred to your pupils. We do not tell children you opt this or opt that. We help them discover who they are. On the basis of that, we help them find a way. If there is no way there, we try and create a way for them because this is who we are. We are Martinians. Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Mr. Keswani, for also encapsulating the entire ethos of what La Martiniere has built up and which we pass on for your children as well.